It's almost midnight, and the set is live on Stephen King's Needful Things.
All right, everyone, listen up. 20 minutes, pyro warning.
Crew members, get your inputs ready. It's going to be a loud one.
When filmmakers work to create action scenes featuring large-scale explosions, everyone involved knows that pyrotechnics are as inherently life-threatening as they appear on the screen.
This is where it doesn't hurt to say a little prayer, you know.
Because of this ever-present danger, pyrotechnic effects require the skill and calculated precision of highly trained specialists.
You guys need as much protection as you can. You're just on the bounds of the debris getting you. Okay, effects are ready, everybody.
During the filming of pyrotechnics, control of the set is entrusted to steel-nerved individuals known in the business as powder men. The faces and names of these specialists are little known, and seldom do they receive awards or public recognition. But their on-screen impact is enormous.
All cameras running. Ready, Gary. Hot. Hot.
Prepare to take cover as we witness a series of blasts leading up to the cinematic destruction of a small Canadian town. Then we'll travel back to the late 1970s to re-experience the historic firestorms of Apocalypse Now. Enter the explosive realm of Hollywood pyrotechnics, next on Movie Magic. Gibson's Landing, British Columbia, Canada, a 40-minute ferry ride from Vancouver. Gibson's 2,500 residents have watched a film crew transform their community into a New England village for the big screen version of Stephen King's Needful Things. Special effects coordinator Gary Paller has been responsible for the planning and safe execution of several spectacular blasts.
Action, Gary.
Is everything okay over here? Yeah, we're fine. Okay.
A well-respected Canadian pyrotechnician, Paller's effects work has appeared in such films as The Accused and Iceman, and the television dramas MacGyver and Wise Guy. Paller's 9 years as a firefighter gave him a unique understanding of the hazards of his profession.
Duncan, you flood us a light around up to here?
My job on this picture is to design the destruction of a town and make it cinematically spectacular as possible. First thing we're going to do this morning is go over that, pull those half rounds off. It's very important to have a crew you can trust. My first assistant, Jeff Butterworth, is very important to me. He's the guy that oversees all the powder. This is a fairly big show, so we've got 2 crews of 6 people working day and night on different things. I have a 40-foot trailer equipped with everything a director could ever want. We've got flame bars to create fires inside of buildings. I have smoke machines to create fog banks. We've got squibs to do bullet hits, simulate small explosions. Everything you could ever want is on this trailer, and it's portable, and we're quick.
Now for this film's biggest explosion. Paller is planning to level the main set, the antique shop known as Needful Things. Production designer Doug Higgins has supervised the construction of this and several other sets in the center of town. Unfortunately, this picturesque site is just across the street from 4 fuel storage tanks.
Over here is a church, which we built in this little park. And then in another little park over here, we put our main set, Needful Things, a house which we have to ultimately blow up. And so we created this whole community right within this section here. Can't you score and cut a section in here so that the idea is that this stays and the rest goes?
With an eye towards safety, Higgins must work closely with the effects crew. He selects lightweight materials so that the debris from the blast is less likely to cause injuries. The effects crew weakens support beams so that a minimum amount of force is needed to destroy the building.
We blow the windows first, then we have something that comes out from underneath the basement, as if the basement had caught. So we take out underneath the porch, and then we start doing structural damage to the thing itself with a fireball, I would think, coming through the middle of it.
Director Fraser Heston gathers his crew together to explain how he wants this scene to play.
Yeah, that's a good shot. So, Tony, you want to think about whether you want to use the big crane or what. I guess that's the only way we can do it, isn't it? Get up high enough.
Well, fortunately, we don't have to be above the steeple.
Right. Thanks to Gary. I want to talk about camera positions. I want to talk about Bill's stunt people, where they're going to be, where Gary says it's safe for them to be, where Gary's going to blow the thing when we get to it.
Because the set stands just across the street from the fuel storage tanks, the explosion must be carefully controlled.
Now, Gary, where are you going to be?
Well, I was going to be right here in the center of town next to the fuel tanks. I figured if they go off, I want to be the first one out of town.
And you will be.
I will be.
Heston has concerns about the stunt people in this one-take-only shot.
It's very important that we determine the path that these guys are going to run.
Exactly.
I don't care how far away they have to be, because I can just put a lens farther back.
Yeah.
But they don't want to deviate, because if they deviate, if they leave my shot, if they dodge, then I'm boned.
Directors want the biggest explosions possible. Under this pressure to perform, it's the responsibility of the pyrotechnician to decide how much is too much.
Pressure? No.
Gary Paller knows today's audiences expect spectacular explosions, but he must walk a fine line between spectacular and safe. Creating an epic battle scene in the 1920s and 30s was almost like being in combat. On pictures such as The Big Parade, trenches were dug and dozens of acres were mined and planted with dynamite. These dynamite charges in the hard adobe ground of Southern California created rock-like debris that acted much like real shrapnel. The actors never had to be told to keep their helmets on. They kept them on to save their lives. Even the cameras were placed in protective steel cages. Strewn across the landscape, miles of fine wire led to the dynamite charges. Each bomb meant certain death or disfigurement to perhaps a score of men if the technician with his finger on the button made a mistake.
The old powder men, they had nerves of steel. The scenes that we're rigging here can be just as dangerous, though.
As detailed in this diagram, Paller and his team have designed a complex explosion to destroy the Needful Things antique shop. In the first of 4 stages, fireballs will burst out of mortars behind the windows and front door. Next, det cord will cut up the roof and walls. Then debris mortars will blast outward. Finally, fuel and naphthalene bombs will ignite in a fireball.
Then we start watching for debris coming down, and then we go pick up the pieces. No take 2.
A mortar is a steel pan with a black powder bomb called a lifter placed at the bottom. The mortar is then filled with sawdust, chunks of cork, and balsa wood. When ignited, the bomb will blast the cork and balsa outwards, giving the impression of wood and lumber being torn from the building. The pyro crew must rig the building so that none of the blasts blow apart the wiring for any of the other explosions. If that were to happen, some of the charges could fail to detonate, leaving a potential time bomb in the resulting rubble.
Number 3 is all the mortars in here.
Each junction is joined into a main line, then checked with a galvanometer to test for breaks in the wire.
These are all numbered, so we got to have 1 wire here, 1 wire here, 1 wire here, 1 wire here. We got 6 wires, so if we start here, leave 1 here, pull back, leave 1 there, pull back, leave 1 there, pull back, leave 2 here.
Okay.
That's the plan.
To slice and dice the walls and roof, the crew uses primacord or det cord. Made of a thin, flexible tube with a core of high explosives called PTN, det cord disintegrates anything it's tied to.
This stuff burns at approximately 4 miles or 22,000 feet per second. So if you were to dial from Vancouver to Los Angeles, by the time you got there on an old rotary phone, so would this.
While Paller's crew attaches det cord to the walls and roof of the set, Jeff Butterworth returns to their base camp and prepares the bombs. When manufacturing black powder bombs, a measured amount of powder is poured into a plastic bag.
This is a small Omni spark.
An electronic match, or HIT, is used to ignite the bomb. This type of work requires a government license, granted only to those with years of training, experience, and complete knowledge of safety laws and regulations.
These are taped hard with a roll of electrician's tape, so we get lots of strength for them to break apart, and it gives you a bigger bang. Of a scale, it would be hard to say exactly how much this would push, but it would definitely remove my hands and arms. So,
In conjunction with the black powder bombs, other more slow-burning materials are used to give the blast shape and color. This is what the camera photographs as huge fireballs.
some in what we have, which are naphthalene bombs. This is a 15-pound one, and there's one of those hard pack bombs in the center of this. It's a chemical substance that gives us a fireball about 45 foot for this 15-pound bomb with lots of dark colors. It's got the reds and the blacks, and it doesn't stick like gasoline. If gasoline went up against the side of a building, it would stick and burn, whereas this just burns up in the air and it's gone.
Over the years, effects guys have come up with different ways of creating fireballs, and it's been a challenge. But I think my favorite one, along with everybody else, has been the one created by A.D. Flowers and Joe Lombardi in Apocalypse Now. I mean, that was spectacular. We all lived to create that explosion, done by the masters.
Working together in the Philippines for Francis Ford Coppola's Apocalypse Now, A.D. Flowers and Joe Lombardi brought a wealth of pyro experience.
Take any other run that's over there and wipe that whole side
whatever's
out.
left. Just knock it off.
Beach, show a bunch of stuff. Everything.
Okay.
Okay. You
Flowers had created explosions and fire for Red Badge of Courage, Tora Tora Tora, and the Towering Inferno. Lombardi had been supervising special effects for 25 years. His credits include the Godfather films One from the Heart and The Mosquito Coast. Both men are considered legends in the field of pyrotechnics.
I guess on Apocalypse we used every explosive that an effects man has ever used. We were there over 10 months, but all of our explosives that we had planned on using for the entire show was gone within the first month of shooting. When we started our explosives, the first one was a bridge and the entire village that we blew up. But even I didn't visualize that the napalm run would be as big as it was.
For the climax of the village assault scene, Flowers and Lombardi worked with director Coppola to plan one of the biggest explosions ever filmed for a motion picture.
Well, on that one, we'll use paracord, dynamite. We put in 600 feet of plastic tubing that was 6 or 8 inches in diameter, and we put 2 ends up on it and filled it with gasoline. It took us 2 days to fill it up. Along with that pipe, we put explosions in drums that was filled with gasoline, and we spaced them so as the airplane made its run, we would fire these individual charges off.
For Gary Paller and his crew, each explosion is potentially as dangerous as a full-scale napalm drop. For the Needful Things blast, the situation is especially risky because the building to be destroyed is in the center of town.
Shall we go into the 1 hour lockdown?
The antique shop is now literally a loaded weapon. Altogether, the set contains 2,500 feet of det cord, 31-pound and 10 2-pound black powder bombs, 7 naphthalene fire bombs, and 30 gallons of aviation fuel, all set to blow during the 4.5-second blast. Despite their fatigue, the effects crew members meticulously test all of their detonation systems. As the crew continues working, Stunt doubles for lead actors Ed Harris and Bonnie Bedelia, along with 11 other stunt people appearing as town residents, file onto the set. When the explosions begin, these trained professionals will be running from the antique shop. They must hit their marks and be out of harm's way before the next series of violent blasts demolishes the building.
The procedure of the explosions is this building is disappearing in about 2.5 to 3 seconds. And we're going to move it from here to Grandma's Pub. Okay? And anything in between, no. So keep your heads down. Very important. You have to be on time, in position. I can only stress this. We cannot have you half a step behind, but we can't have you half a step ahead. The first explosion to take place is that window. That's explosion number 1. On the second explosion, that door is leaving here at Mach 5. At that time, we detonate the GAC bombs, which is throwing all this stuff in the air, and 2 fuel bombs that are going to light it up cherry red in here, okay? At about half a beat behind that, the roof is loaded with almost 1,000 feet of 200 grain and 100 grain det cord. When that goes off, then all these boards in here get cut along this, what we call the AB wall. That gets cut and the roof starts caving in from the other side.
Stunt coordinator and 2nd Unit Director Bill Ferguson makes sure his people understand completely where they must be when the blast goes off.
So it's what we'll do is we're going to do this. We'll walk through this as many times as it takes to do another timing thing. We'll all start on action. So it's Adventures in Lumberland.
Yes. And believe me, when I say, if you all want to take a real quick look up, you'll notice that those are all 2x4s. There's no balsa wood in here, okay? We saved all the balsa wood for the actors. It's very important. All got to think your stuff through. We don't get take 2. It's too big.
The responsibility for safety rests with Paller. If his judgment is off and the blast is too large, the fire debris could ignite nearby buildings. If his timing is off or a stunt person misses their mark, someone could be injured or killed.
35 minutes from now, the switch is going to get pulled. This is where you get down to the crunch where, you know, your weeks of planning have got to pay off. Everything that we do is it's brought down to one button. When you push it, it don't go, or only half of it goes, and it wasn't successful, so it should be successful. I'm happy. I'll be happier when it's over.
The volunteer fire department provides fire trucks and personnel. Working closely with Paller, they erect barricades to prevent spectators from getting too close to the blast.
From here, I get everybody off the street, and then the last thing I'm going to do is run my wires. I'm going to tell Hydro to cut the power.
The effects crew completes rigging the antique shop, and preparations begin for the final countdown. A mile of insulated wire leads to the points of detonation from a master control called a nail board. Constructed simply out of wood and steel nails, each nail is wired to a separate set of explosives. Another nail, called the striker, is wired to a battery. When these nails touch, the circuit is completed and the blast is ignited with precise control.
When they stop and you say you're ready, I'll wire the cameras like we did the other day. And when they're all up to speed, I'm going to tap Fraser. Fraser will give action.
Finally, everyone takes his or her place as the cameras roll.
And action!
Because we judged correctly on the explosion, the debris stayed within 70, 75 feet of the explosion. No one got hurt. I had a lot of people out there. Everything went perfect. I was very happy, very pleased with it. It was a very difficult explosion.
It was beautiful. It was. I was hiding down in the hole over there watching it. It was just beautiful. I loved it.
Thank you very much, everybody. That's well done.
Wrapping it up.
Very good night. Thank you.
A good powder man must possess the knowledge of a chemist, the timing of a stuntman, and the eye of a cameraman. Only a select few accept this responsibility and hold the licensed title of pyrotechnic operator. Hollywood's increasing demand for spectacular pyrotechnics requires calculated precision and finely tuned skills. Effects men like Gary Paller, A.D. Flowers, Joe Lombardi, and a handful of others take pride in the fact that their injury rates are extremely low, even when filming scenes that literally throw audiences back into their seats.
Another day at the office. This is what really makes the 9-to-5ers want to do this job.